When you watch a horror film about a wish gone wrong, you expect a certain set of rules. A box hidden in a dusty antique shop, an ancient forbidden vault, or a warning whispered by a mysterious stranger. But in Curry Barker's film Obsession, the wish packaged in the box isn't hidden away from the world. It is mass manufactured. It has a cute design, a standard retail barcode, and a price tag of exactly $6.99. In any normal world, an item capable of rewriting human consciousness would trigger a massive federal criminal investigation and a nationwide product recall. Actually, anything with that much power would never even see the light of day. But in this universe, it is just another non-refundable piece of inventory sitting on a shelf. This single detail shifts obsession from a simple horror film into a bleak, dark joke on the weaponization of human desperation. The corporate system doesn't care if a customer is unstable, malicious, or dangerously lonely. It doesn't put up safety rails or background checks. If your credit card doesn't decline, you are casually handed the power to destroy another human being's life. To play devil's advocate, Bear didn't go into the store as a calculated monster. He didn't realize the horrific, irreversible damage that would be done to Nikki's mind. In fact, he was meant to give the One Wish Willow to Nikki as a gift, but after he once again fumbled in being honest with her, he snapped the stick out of pure isolation and a desperate hunger for love and affection. But his initial lack of malice doesn't defeat the underlying message of the film. It actually exposes a much darker question. Why would you even try? If there was a 0.0% chance of this magic being real, if there was even the slightest possibility that that box on the shelf actually worked, why would your desperation drive you so far that you would be willing to risk taking away another human being's free will? Bear isn't some dark sorcerer. He is the ultimate product of a broken consumer culture, living in a world where everything is bought, sold, and disposed of instantly. Because of this, he treats human relationships exactly like a commercial transaction. He does not value depth, patience, or genuine connection. He just wants immediate satisfaction, proving that when a society exploits our desires, our desperation will always blind us to the cost of our transactions. The One Wish Willow doesn't work like a grand fairy tale spell. It plays out like a glitching software patch forced onto a computer that is actively trying to reject it. And the person who bears the devastating brunt of this broken mess is Nikki. Nikki is not the villain. She's a hostage inside her own skin. Her free will and bodily consent have been violently hijacked by a $7 transaction. The wish controlling her has overwritten her brain, forcing her body to smile, cook, and play the role of the perfect girlfriend. But a human soul cannot be rewritten without a fight. The real horror of obsession is watching Nikki's true consciousness stage a desperate, psychological fight from deep within. Look at the packed lunch scene. In a normal movie, a cute little lunchbox with a handwritten note is the ultimate symbol of romance. But here, it's a silent cry for help, left right in plain sight. Inside that box, Nikki has packed a Polaroid of the two of them, but right under her own face, she's written, "Not me." It's the real human Nikki managing to claw her way to the surface of the curse for just a moment. She isn't trying to be creepy, and it is devastating to watch her desperation go completely ignored. He isn't a traditional captor. There are no locks on the doors, but by trapping her inside her own mind, he has become the warden of her soul. She's begging him to look past this artificial, smiling software version of her and realize that the real Nikki, the one with her own dreams and ambitions, has been completely overwritten by an animated caricature of his desires. She's reaching out to the very person who ruined her life, And I have to wonder if she even knows. Like a defective toy crying out to the child who broke it. Watching Bear's progression as he starts to realize the wish actually worked. He sees the cracks. He sees the "not me" note. He knows that deep down something is wrong, but he blatantly turns a blind eye. His ego is so fragile and he's so desperate to keep his shiny new toy that he chooses to ignore her suffering just so that he can keep playing house. The psychological tug-of-war culminates in the most misunderstood sequence in the entire film. The party scene where Nikki stands up to read her short story about Hansel and Gretel. To understand why Nikki's short story at the party focuses so intensely on this grotesque intimacy between siblings, we have to look at the actual reality of her relationship with Bear before he made the wish. We can argue if Sarah was telling the truth or not, but she mentions that Nikki viewed Bear as a little brother, so when the curse forced her into a sexual and romantic fixation towards him, it altered her core nature, and that's exactly where the psychological wires get tangled inside her head. When Nikki stands up at that party and recites a story about the siblings Hansel and Gretel being intimate, she is showing us that her true organic feelings about Bear, that he is a brother, are colliding head-on with the forced love of the spell, because the curse is forcing her to feel romance towards someone she views as a sibling. Her mind translates that violation into a story about incest. It's the only way her trapped subconscious can express how deeply perverted and unnatural this forced intimacy feels to her. And this is where we can draw a brilliant parallel to the actual Hansel and Gretel fairy tale. In the original story, the children are lost, lonely, and starving in a cold world, just like Bear is starving for connection in his own world. When they find a house made of candy, it feels like a miracle. It's a cheap, effortless shortcut to fix their hunger, which is exactly what the One Wish Willow represents to Bear. He thinks he is a consumer eating a luxury meal, completely satisfied, because Nikki is suddenly serving his every need. But just like the gingerbread house, the candy is a trap designed by a predator to lure you in and fatten you up to be consumed. Bear thought he just bought a cute romance, but his own greed and hunger walked him straight into a trap. Nikki starts to morph into whatever she thinks Bear will love. Have you noticed her weird cat-like behavior throughout the film? She is literally mimicking Bear's cat, Sandy. The Wish has mistaken love for his pet as an aspect of romance. Nikki exhibits pet-like separation anxiety, standing by the door waiting for him for hours, soiling herself and fixing heavily on his scent when she first enters his home, because just like a pet, her whole life is now her owner. She's reshaping her entire physical identity just to satisfy his appetite. By the end of the movie, she takes this mimicry to a whole new extreme as we see her try and turn into Sarah to be loved by him, drawing a chilling comparison to Bear's own sickness. He is obsessed with her, but he doesn't outwardly display it. He views romantic lust and real love as the exact same thing. And he wanted the version of Nikki that was infatuated with him, treating her affection like a product he purchased, completely unbothered by whether she actually loves him. But the second she outwardly displays the exact wish he made, he acts like a customer stuck with a defective item. He wants her to just be normal again, showing zero regard for Nikki herself. He just wants a refund on a purchase he now regrets. When Nikki feeds Bear, his deceased cat, in his packed work lunch, I believe it's her mind's desperate attempt to speak to him in the only language that the curse will allow. Because she can't directly say, "I don't love you," her subconscious translates her internal violation into an external one. Think about it. She's feeding him something that he loved and took responsibility for. It was the only way her trapped soul could get back at him, but it also completely twists the wires of love. The wish has warped her mind to mirror his own logic. If his love meant consuming her entire identity, why wouldn't he want to literally consume the thing he loves? She's feeding him his own twisted logic. This is exactly why her party monologue connects back to the literal text of the Hansel and Gretel fairy tale. In her short story, Gretel explicitly threatens to insert Hansel's flesh inside her own body if he ever tries to leave the house. This isn't just a creepy line, but rather the ultimate depiction of forced permanent possession. The further away Bear pushes, the worse her possession of him gets, directly mirroring the story's warning. If he tries to run, she will literally integrate his body into her own. This is the curse's terms of service, finally catching up to Bear, showing him the real, terrifying price of the contract he signed. Wish Nikki ends her story stating, "Love only the branch of a willow tree could conjure." This is a direct reminder of the cheap $6.99 wish that bound them together. Deep down, I believe she knows that their affection is manufactured, and the story is warning the consumer, Bear, that because he used a cheap transactional shortcut to bypass human consent, there will be consequences. At some point, he thought he won the lottery and got to enjoy a relationship that he yearned for, but the forced feelings backfired completely. The moment his shortcut turned his life into an inescapable cage, stripping away his privacy and sanity, he doesn't care what happens to Nikki, he just wants a way out of it. The absolute peak of Nikki's victimization happens when her real self momentarily comes to the surface, and she would rather choose self-destruction over compliance. She would literally rather die than spend another minute functioning as a product for Bear's enjoyment. Even after everything, he can't even imagine the idea of dying in order to free Nikki from his wrongdoings. He has taken advantage of her time and time again. This leads directly into the poetic justice of the final scene. Terrified by how violent and out of control his fantasy has become, Bear shows how much of a coward he truly is. For a brief moment, we believe that maybe he is ready to do the right thing and face the demons he created by swallowing the same pills that killed his cat, but not even a moment later, he tries to induce vomiting to save himself. Before his cowardice can win once again, Nikki snaps the branch and demands a final wish, that Bear can be deeply and obsessively in love with her. The man who barcoded Nikki's soul, stripped her of her free will, and forced her into an unconsented mental prison, is now subjected to the exact same horror. Bear is locked inside a body that has been stripped of his autonomy. The consumer has been transformed into the product. Because, let's face it, obsession strikes a visceral nerve with us because it isn't actually about a magic wish. It is shining a blinding spotlight on a very real, very modern crisis. We are living in a fast, algorithm-driven world where we've been completely conditioned to treat human intimacy like a commodity. We swipe for it, we order it, we expect it to be delivered instantly, just to patch up our own suffocating loneliness. But this movie forces us to look past Bear's desperation and look directly at the reality around us. In a world that is lonelier, more isolated, and more desperate for real connection than ever before, let's ask the honest, uncomfortable question: how many people would truly have the strength to walk past that box if it was sitting at their local corner store, costing less than a fast food meal? We live in a world where if we want something, we expect to click a button and have it arrive at our door the very next day. Bear didn't want to build a relationship. He wanted the fast food equivalent of a partner, instant gratification with zero emotional labor. The real nightmare of Curry Barker's masterpiece isn't the wish itself, or the cat sandwich, or the gore. It is a society that has barcoded the human soul, slapped a price tag on it, and put it on a shelf for anyone to purchase. It is a final warning to every one of us. When you weaponize human desperation and try and buy a shortcut to the human heart, you will never find love. You will just build a prison out of your own greed and lock yourself inside to watch it burn.